What's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It's the Earthmaster here on this Thursday, November 17th, 2022 date. It is about 11:51 a.m. California time, and the latest quake here, 1.7 in Southern California. We have noticed a lot of uptick in earthquake activity across the area along the Middle America Trench and around the Caribbean plate. A lot of uptick in activity this morning so far, and also South America region seeing a little bit of uptick in the earthquake department. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here on the map. Notice that the USGS not really showing a whole lot here again across the area of the Middle America Trench, but it's there. We've seen a couple fours up and down this area off the coast of Mexico. Looks like Costa Rica area as well. All seeing some threes and fours up and down that region of the plate boundary. Pretty active. Again, not on this map because it's the USGS for whatever reason. Let's go ahead and check out the activity around the Puerto Rico area first. We did see a 5.0 up here north of Puerto Rico early this morning, about 3:48 in the morning my time, 4 kilometers deep, up around a section of the Puerto Rico Trench, but closer here to the Mona Seamount area. Kind of a moderate sized earthquake. Really haven't seen anything above a 3 or a 4 recently in this area, so 5 earthquake coming in there. Also some other smaller quakes within the vicinity of the Puerto Rico area. The one quake that the USGS does have on here is a 4.6. That earthquake from this morning, just a couple hours ago, about 35 kilometers deep into the region. Again, remember, there's some definitely some uptick kicking off there. Same for the South America region. USGS only showing a handful of earthquakes here, 4.1 into the Peru-Chile Trench at 92 kilometers deep. Up into Texas, outside of Pecos, Texas. Last earthquake, at least recorded here on this map, about 4:30 in the morning. We have had 35 earthquakes in this area since yesterday's 5 point. Looks like they've upgraded it to a 5.4. It did stand as a 5.3 for a little while, and they did put out a little bit of information here. Let's go ahead and read it. See if they mention anything about wastewater. So the yesterday's earthquake of 5.3 in Texas occurred as the result of shallow normal faulting about 40 kilometers west-southwest of Minatone, Texas. The earthquake occurred within the interior of the North American plate, far from any tectonic plate boundaries. It's an intraplate earthquake and is therefore considered, there we go, as I mentioned it. It's actually the first time I'm reading this morning. I didn't even know they put out a little summary on it. The preliminary focal mechanism solution for the earthquake indicates rupture occurred on a moderately dipping normal fault plane striking either to the northwest or the southeast. This region surrounding the earthquake yesterday is seismically active. Since about 2018, about 1,000 earthquakes of magnitude 2.5 and larger have struck within 50 kilometers of this recent quake. We checked out those earthquakes on last night's update. There was quite a bit. I think there's more than 1,000. If I remember right, I counted about 1,600. The largest was a magnitude 5.0 on March 26, 2020. That struck within this area. Okay, we get all that. Over the past 2 decades, the central and eastern United States has experienced an increase in the occurrence of earthquakes. Scientific studies have linked much of this increase to human activity. Predominantly wastewater injection into deep disposal wells. Wow, they're actually mentioning that. However, other mechanisms such as fluid withdrawal, enhanced oil recovery, or hydraulic fracturing processes can also result in induced earthquakes. In addition, regions from the frequent induced events may also be subject to damaging earthquakes that would have occurred independently of human activity. Making a strong scientific case for a causative link between a particular human activity and a particular sequence of earthquakes typically involves special studies devoted specifically to the question at hand. Such investigations usually address a process by which a suspected triggering activity might be significantly altered stresses in the rocks at the earthquake source, and they are commonly address the ways in which characteristics of the suspected human-triggered earthquakes differ from the characteristics of natural earthquakes in the region. So we've seen, we've seen a lot of earthquake activity here in this area of Texas and Oklahoma and everywhere. There's these operations, these oil operations. Just a real quick glance here at the satellite view again. I'd like to show it because it sits out there amongst a wealth of oil pumping operations and hydraulic fracturing operations out here. Wastewater injection ponds are going to be these beautiful swimming pools out here in the Texas desert. And this activity that kicked up yesterday and months past, in the past couple years, has been all around these oil fields. They're all over the place, folks. There's thousands of them. All these are just a maze of damage done below, and the whole process that takes place in this area. I get it. Oil pumping operations are a big deal out here, big money, but also earthquakes. They're in the forecast, that's for sure. Wherever there's this process, you can bet that you're going to see an earthquake. And whether it's a 2 or 3 or maybe even a larger, like we seen yesterday in Texas, 5.4. That's somewhat of a moderate-sized earthquake. You have that near a town, and you're looking at some damage. And that's that's what these areas have to look forward to. There is fault systems out here. There's a lot of stress built up here along the North American plate, including the inland area of the North American plate here. So, up here in Oklahoma, a little bit of activity, right? Seen this coming in yesterday, and that kind of sits out here within these fields. Oil fields, oil fields, oil fields, oil fields. All over the place, oil fields. So, this is a future of earthquakes out here across this area. It's just a matter of time before some of the newer ones get hit. I think a lot of these ones out here in Texas are some older ones, but they still look operational. With all these wastewater ponds that are currently, and then again, I don't know when this satellite image was taken, but they're all over the place, folks. They're everywhere, and that's just that's a fact. I'm glad the USGS is kind of jumping on board with that realization there of the earthquakes and the fracking hydraulic operations, the link between them two. Overnight, what do we see here? Looks like mostly 2s and 3s. We did have another 3.8 last night. And this area is a hotspot of earthquake activity, folks. I just want to bring back the last 30 days. Okay, we're not going to go back over, last couple years, because we looked at that last night. And there was about 1,500 or so. 228 earthquakes over the last 30 days. This is the all magnitudes, but I can't say that all magnitudes are in here because it doesn't really look like they show the smaller ones. There's probably a lot more taking place here than what's being reported, but that's a lot of earthquakes, folks, and it's going to continue for quite some time. And again, some of these could get on the larger side, so just a heads up. New Madrid zone over here. Most of this activity here from yesterday, it looks like nothing overnight. It was just kind of watching to see how this activity may have, affected any regional spots, but it doesn't look like anything's been affected over here throughout the area. Up into Yellowstone region, we got a little activity kicking up here, it looks like, overnight. And I was looking at this earlier. Let me go over here to the Yellowstone graph, and things are still continuing here in the earthquake department. A little bit of microquake activity. This is the 5.4 from yesterday, just about ready to drop off the map here, or the graph. Pretty lengthy earthquake that 5.4 was. Notice the drawn out signature here of that moderate quake there in Texas. Overnight earthquake activity. But there's this earthquake right here that is not showing it, obviously showing up here in the park. Situated around the kind of looks like it's within the Maple Creek area. Although Moose Creek, Idaho is also picking that up. Let me check this out here. Just before 13:30 UTC time. I just want to look over here real quick. 13:30. UTC time. Stand by for just a second here. I wonder if it's going to be one of these. UTC time there. This is a recent earthquake that's shown up there on that map, so see, I'm kind of having an issue with finding out where this earthquake struck. It's not showing up on the USGS map as far as local seismic activity goes here. Did have some earthquake activity further down south again into Idaho, but the signature that is definitely a lot bigger than some of these other smaller microquakes. I just can't figure out where they're coming from, where it's coming from. It's not the eastern section of the park. It's not really the western section. It's the strongest over here around Maple Creek, Holmes Hill, Masson River area, all kind of picking that up. But also at the same time, kind of being picked up down here at Moose Creek. But looking at this map here in Moose Creek, it looks like this is a pretty highly amplitude graph. So it could be picking up some of this activity up north. But it's hard to tell. Either this is it kind of looks like a localized earthquake, but there's nothing from the USGS showing anything about it. So I'm going to watch this, see if they report on it. Kind of just an oddball quake. Obviously something there, but nothing showing up on the map as far as any notification there from the USGS. And I can't really pinpoint exactly where it's at because of the difficulty here across the map. I mean, obviously it's shown up less as we look towards the eastern section of the park, so that's not going to be over there. Got to be somewhere within this region here. And aside from that, definitely still seeing some earthquake activity, some seismograph stations here showing these spikes. Those are all localized microquake activity. And close out some of these windows here. Opened up a bunch just within a minute of chatting there. All right, let's see. Pacific Northwest here into Washington and Oregon. A couple small microquakes around Mount Hood today. We'll check that out here in just a little bit on the seismograph. A little bit of activity there. And also Mount St. Helens. No unusual activity across the Cascadia currently. Throughout Northern California, one earthquake here off the Battle Creek Fault, just outside of Redding. That one coming in early this morning, about almost 4 o'clock. And the rest of California here, spotty at best. Nothing going on across the Bay Area today. Things kind of quiet up there. Southern California, about the same. Got a little bit of movement up here north of the Fillmore area. A couple small microquakes in the mountains. And typical movement along the San Jacinto Fault Zone. No major swarms to take note of. No unusual activity currently across the area of Southern California. One earthquake here on the Garlock Fault Zone outside of Tehachapi at 1.2. But aside from that, things just kind of minimal right now across the area. Let's look at Alaska. About the same up here as well. Nothing within the last hour. A little bit of activity across the Alaska Range up there around Denali. And, of course, through the Cook Inlet area. Western Pacific, getting a couple earthquakes here. Around the Japan area in a little fashion here across the Japan Trench. Almost equally spread apart here. One of those from yesterday, a couple of those from early this morning. 66 kilometers appear to be the average depth there of those quakes. And that will add some further strain upstream. Watch that closely. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench not showing anything yet, folks, but that is a big one. That's a major trench zone, subduction zone. That's waiting to be. I'm waiting on it. I've been waiting on it for a little while. Mariana Trench pretty quiet today as well. Throughout the Indonesia area, Solomon Islands, all seen some activity overnight. Nothing major. We did see a couple more deep movement quakes around Fiji. 4.7 earlier this morning at 320 kilometers deep. little bit of adjustment down south here along the, well, kind of in between the Kermadec and the Tonga Trench, 4.8. New Zealand area looks pretty quiet for now. Not a whole lot going on. Further west, some activity in northern India, looks like, or just outside of Pakistan, 4.4. That one coming in just after midnight. And outside of Dubai, over here around Iran area, 5.2 coming in about 6 o'clock this morning there. Not a whole lot of activity further west. The Big Island is lighting up a little bit here with a couple earthquakes within the last hour or so. No major unrest overnight at Mauna Loa. Most of the activity has been confined here to the Pahala area, the southeastern flank, where typical activity occurs, but still kind of keeping an eye on that Big Island. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let me check out the tremor map from last night. Only showed 20 epicenters here into the Oregon area. And want to check out Mount Hood, see what's cooking up there. There's those 2 earthquakes on the southeastern portion of Mount Hood. Beautiful volcano. Let's see what we got for seismic activity around Mount Hood. Like I say, these little earthquakes are, yeah, they're common. It's when we get these major swarms. That's something we need to keep an eye out. But this here looks like some type of environmental noise, consistent every 20 minutes or so. It could be a generator that comes on, something. So that station right there is not a good one to monitor. We'll check out this one a little bit further north. Top of Palmer Lift. It could be, yeah, lift operations there. Making all that noise, environmental noise. And it looks about the same here on this graph. See if we can't find one that might be not quite as noisy. Ah, goodness. Either way, I think, though, if there was earthquake activity, aside from the little small microquakes we're seeing over the last 24 hours, we would see it even with the noise that's kicking up. Oh, there we go. Here's a pretty good tuned station. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a couple. These are definitely earthquakes here. Can't really tell too much in the last couple hours, but early this morning and overnight, I'm counting maybe 4 or 5 very small earthquakes there across Mount Hood. And yesterday's activity, about the same. There's some S waves coming in from I wonder if that's the earthquake there in Texas that it picked up, possibly. But either way, a little bit of seismic activity there at Mount Hood. And the USGS kind of showing, what, about 3 earthquakes, the largest a 1.1. And I probably counted 2 other small ones in there. So no major swarming, no major adjustment, just a little small quake activity around Mount Hood. Let's see here. Oh, so yeah, a couple areas I think we want to watch today. Let's see what we got here. Still getting that crunch of activity across the Indonesia area and Java into the Java Trench. New Zealand looks like they did have a 3.0 around the South Island area. That earthquake somewhat deep as well, being raised off the globe. Most of the activity up north, 3.6 and a 3.0. Okay, a little bit of activity there. But a couple areas look like we need to watch. Maybe the Middle America Trench region. That's a section right here across the portions of the North American Plate and the Cocos Plate area. It's a subduction zone there. And then, of course, down across the Costa Rica area. And generally all over the Caribbean Plate here, showing quite a bit of movement, including that 5-pointer that kicked up there outside of Puerto Rico. So a lot of crunching and moving around here between all these plates. This is kind of like the little guy getting bullied by all these other massive plates that are just moving around and scooting around it. So got to watch that. When we see a pretty good uptick like that around the Caribbean Plate, things could be getting active there. South America region, a couple of 3s, and looks like a couple 4s in there that USGS may not be reporting, but Luckily, we run the EMSC on this channel as well. Check out space weather. Haven't checked it out yet this morning, so I'm kind of curious to see how these newly developing sunspots are holding out. Ah, man. Yeah, these are already looking like they're decaying. Instability there with the magnetic structure of the fields here. Magnetic fields don't look all that complex and compared to what they did yesterday. Looked a little bit more set up, but oh well. I mean, that's the way it goes. Hopefully some of these will come back into play and gain some instability in their magnetic structure. Right now, it looks like 95% chance of a C flare, M flare at 35, and X flare around 1. And current solar flare conditions here, very minimal. Kind of peaking out in the C flare category. So we'll see. Maybe an isolated threat for an M flare throughout the day today. We do have, of course, 46, this coronal hole, massive one. This thing is huge. In view of the Earth right now. Again, it is kind of facing south, though. And I'm not quite certain that this is going to play a major part on any solar weather conditions in the coming days. I think it's going to miss us. But it looks like possibly here on the detailed forecast, we'll see some elevated conditions around the UTC date of November 19th. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if anything pans out there. Aside from that, current conditions, not a whole lot going on across the real-time solar wind data. Things pretty neutral and minimal. Aurora forecast is pretty calm. Not a whole lot of potential up there to see anything around those areas. All right, folks, have a good day. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on this evening with the update. Again, got so much schoolwork. I actually kind of pushed a lot of my work from yesterday onto today, so I need to get that done ASAP. But I will be here in the earthquake office monitoring activity here while I'm working on my schoolwork. So we'll chat at you guys a little bit later on this evening. Have a good one, folks. Peace out.